get into this thing? All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's going to be a little bit different for the first part of the video. I just want to talk about what's in this box. So a few weeks back, I posted a video and I was responding to some comments on it. And a gentleman by the name of Roland Wheeler, who has been watching the video since I started posting, reached out to me and we were talking about race suits. And I just said that I don't have one yet and how I'll be looking to get one here shortly. He had mentioned to me that he is now retired from road racing and he had a suit that he would give to me if I wanted it. Now, why wouldn't I want it? So anyways, long story short, Roland told me what size he was. He asked me if I was similar size, and it turns out I'm not similar sized. I am the exact same size as Roland. And it just blows me away that someone would do this. Someone I've never met, someone that just is supporting what I'm trying to do here. And it's just unbelievable to me. But enough of me rambling on. Let's dive into what's in this box. All right, let's crack into this. All right, first thing we have is the pair of gloves. Next thing we have our boots. Alpine Stars SMX, I believe. The other one. He also threw in the undergarments you wear with them, the Stay Cool top and bottoms, which is awesome. And then the main piece, the suit. Let me see if I can pull this out one-handed. All right, let me put you in the tripod. All right, hopefully the audio is decent, but whew, I'm not gonna be able to get it in the shot fully. Oh man, I'll get some B-roll of it so you can see everything. But so as you can see, it's got some cool logos on it. On the back, it says Candy Stripe, and on a few other spots it says Candy Stripe Moto, which has a pretty cool story behind it. So Candy Stripe Moto is a cafe in Thailand, owned by a woman named Issy. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. Roland, correct me if I'm wrong. She owns a cafe in Thailand, but she also owns a race team. And Roland raced for that race team, and that's where he got this suit. And he's, like I said, since retired. So that's why all over the suit, you'll see the Candy Stripe Moto logos and see it say Candy Stripe. It also says it on the gloves as well. But this thing is pristine. And I still can't believe he sent this. So I will admit, last night when I got it, I had to open it and put it on just to see if it fit. And not only does the suit fit, but the boots fit perfectly too. So again, I'm in awe, but thank you, Roland. But I can't do this video and not put it on, right? So you guys can watch me struggle to wedge this onto my body. Oh, and I almost forgot, that's not the only box he sent. He also sent a bag to put everything in. Factory racing bag. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right, let's throw this thing on real quick. Just a heads up, this is not gonna be graceful, but it's part of the journey. How do you get into this thing? Now for the gloves. Quite the process, but it fits perfectly. Yeah, it's shocking how well it fits down to the boots. Boots fit perfectly. I'm trying to get it in the whole frame, but I don't think I can unless I go way back here. Yeah, it's surprisingly, like, I can move really well. Obviously I can't bend my arms very straight, but that's kind of the point. Throw in the helmet for a full effect. What's so cool about this too is it matches my helmet. Let's see how we look on the bike. Feels pretty good. The knees are a little tight. Roland said to take the knee pucks off since I'm not gonna need them. Shouldn't need them going straight. So I'll go ahead and take those off, but huge shout out to Roland. I can't thank you enough. Give him a shout out in the comments. I mean, we're gonna be putting his name on the side of the bike as a sponsor, just like our other sponsors. But yeah, again, I really appreciate it. I'm gonna get out of this and we'll start looking into the bike a little bit. All right, guys, let's dive into this thing. So as you can see, I've already started taking it apart a little bit. When we finished up last week riding it for the first time at the track, we finished up and the motor was making a couple noises, nothing that I was too worried about. It was still running just fine. We had a ticking noise, which sounded like loose valve lash. And then we also had a squeaking noise, like a squeaking belt or bearing. It didn't sound like it was coming from this setup here. So I took the belt off, took the load off of everything, and I was just spinning everything, and nothing is making any sort of sound with the belt off. So we might tension everything back up and spin it manually and see if we can hear anything. But yeah, so I thought it was the valve lash, but I checked the valve lash already, and that seems fine. So it's probably one of two things. First thing being the exhaust. I never made, this is how lazy I am. So on this side, you'll see there's a little hanger that holds this muffler. It's just tacked in place, but it's plenty strong for what we were doing. On this side, I just never got around to it. So it was just kind of hanging off the head, asking for a cracked exhaust. But it didn't. It ended up just kind of loosening up. So it was the nuts are really backed off, and it was just kind of flapping in the breeze a little bit, which isn't good, but I'll get that taken care of. We'll throw a bracket on it. But what I actually think the noise was, after looking at it a little bit further, was this. Which, if you've been watching the videos or you know anything about fuel injection, that's not good at all. So when I move it like this, I'm essentially changing the timing, almost 5 degrees, not plus or minus 5, but 5 overall, which isn't good. That could mess up our timing. It could advance 5 degrees and potentially mess up the motor. But I mean, we were so conservative on our timing, I'm really not worried about it much. So essentially what probably happened is there's a nut that holds this entire stack up together. And that must have backed off even though I Loctited it. So we'll take this all apart, verify that's what happened, and I'll retorque it down, but I think we'll end up safety wiring the nut to the trigger wheel, just so we don't have to worry about it. That's where we're gonna start. We're gonna take this apart and see what we got going on there. So the nut, just by hand feel, still feels pretty tight. So I'm not sure why that loosened up unless we split the key by chance, which I doubt, but I'll keep tearing it down. All right, here's the conclusion I've come up with as to why we had that little bit of gap even though the bolt or the nut was still tight. So this is our lower pulley, and this slides right onto that shaft and meets this face right here, which is aluminum, and that bolts right to the crankshaft. Nothing here can move in and out. And if it could, the entire assembly would move in and out. There wouldn't be that difference between the two. So this goes onto our crankshaft, and then our trigger wheel mates right up to it on the stack up. So when I tighten this all down, the only thing in the stack up that theoretically can compress, even though the steel can't compress, just not to the extent that you're going to see that movement. You can see on this pulley, hopefully you can see on this pulley, there's this little lip. And this lip is just a real thin piece of steel they've swaged this surface down to hold it in place. And that can easily compress. So my thoughts are, when I bolted this together and compressed it all down, this face wasn't necessarily sitting on this face as I intended. It may have been pressing against this, which can flex. So I could have gotten it tight, and over time may have compressed this even more, and then just flexed enough to allow it to have a little bit of play. So my plan is either just to take this off, because I don't need it. You may be able to see the wear pattern from the belt. This is not guiding the belt whatsoever. The idler pulley is guiding the belt. So this is totally unnecessary. So I'm probably just going to take that off to make sure I don't have that issue again. Other than that, that's the only thing I can think of. Yeah, I don't think it can be. I mean, it might be, but my usual go-to answer is the simplest answer 9 times out of 10 is the correct one. So I'm probably going to go ahead and take this off, but we'll get this assembly thrown back together, and I'll just keep my eye on it. I'll probably still safety wire. Yeah, I should probably safety wire that nut. All right, let me get this little piece off. All right, so the more I look at this, we have more problems than just that flange piece that we took off. So as you can see, when I put this lower pulley on, there's not much key that sticks out. And when I put this trigger wheel on, it does engage, but not very well. And you can see as I move, it can move because the OD of the shaft and this ID, there's quite a bit of tolerance between the two. I had this cut through Sen Cut Sen, so I mean, this is probably water jet or laser cut, and I probably had my tolerances a little too large, so it's able to move a little bit. So what I think I'm just going to do is tack weld the trigger wheel straight to the edge of that little shoulder on the pulley. Just one tack in each, 120 degrees apart, just to keep it so it can't move this little amount like that. And really, it's not a big deal because I'm more than likely never going to run a bigger pulley down here, because with the setup with that lower one, and if I run like a 32 tooth up there, I mean, it's going to make a crazy amount of boost. So, and even if I do want to run another pulley, I can just have another one of these cut. I could have a batch of these cut from Sen Cut Sen and just tack up a bunch. So not too worried about it. Okay, we got our trigger wheel all welded up to our pulley. I just put a small little bead on each point that I could get to. Just try to keep them as the same size as possible, just to keep the weight kind of the same so it doesn't get all out of balance. Not that I think it would matter that much. So we welded it up, threw some paint on it. I drilled a small hole for the safety wire to go through the trigger wheel, and then another hole to go through the nut. I don't think we've done safety wiring on the channel yet. Trying to think back if we have, but even if we have, I'll go through it again. Believe me, I'm no expert in it. I'm around it at my job, but I'll go through it a little bit here. So basically the main job of safety wiring is to stop a bolt or nut or any sort of object to stop it from threading out. It's a physical means to stop it from threading out. Hope that makes sense. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with safety wire, but anyways, the safety wire I have here is 30 thou. I've cut a little piece off, quite a bit more than I need, but it's better to have extra. So these are safety wire pliers. All they do is you can grab onto your safety wire, and when you pull this, it will rotate and spin your wire and tighten it. But it'll make more sense when I'm actually doing it. Typically I just grab, and I want a safety wire to that hole, so I just kind of give myself a general, probably about that much. Okay, so I'm just going to pull. Okay. That looks pretty good. So hopefully you can see I got this little braided little line, and it goes right up to my hole. So now I'm going to take one of these and hook it through. Pull it back through my little window. Just trying to get it as tight as I can. Now I'm going to re-grab my wire with my pliers like that, lock them. And then with this little pigtail, I just like to kind of curl it around so it doesn't poke anybody. All right, and that's pretty much it. I'm not a master at safety wiring. There's some guys that, turn it into an art, and it's pretty incredible. But the main objective is you're trying to make sure this nut doesn't back off. So if this is a right-hand thread nut and I'm tightening in this way, I want to grab and pull the nut to a point that is going to always tighten it. It gets more complicated when you're tightening heads of bolts together. Like if I were to do this pattern, you want to, in an S pattern, to stop them each one from backing off, but this one's a little easier since it's a single nut going to a standard point or a single point. The one thing to watch out for if you are safety wiring something that's rotating like this, make sure you're safety wiring it to a point that is also rotating. I know that sounds extraordinarily obvious, but sometimes you get in a rush, and like if I, for instance, thought about safety wiring it to this block, obviously this doesn't rotate, so you'll figure it out real quick. But all right, so that's all set. We'll start putting this thing back together. Okay, jumping forward a little bit, I got everything put back together. It's really solid now, which is great. On the other side here, I found time last night to weld a little bracket onto this exhaust and get that all tightened down, so that should be good. We didn't find time in this video to get into everything I wanted to. It's been a crazy couple weeks in my house, so in the next video, we'll get everything else sorted out. We'll get it fired up again, and hopefully we can figure out our issue with the crank sensor losing signal around 8,000 RPM, and probably take it for another quick ride. And then we need to start getting this thing ready to actually race it. We weren't able to make it to the spring event, which was now two weekends ago in Arkansas. The bike wasn't ready, I wasn't ready, but we are going to be going to the fall event, which is October 6th, 7th, and 8th in Arkansas. So we're 100% going to that, no matter what. So we need to still do a lot of stuff to get ready for that. So after this video, it's pretty much just gonna be a countdown and knocking things out and testing and get everything ready so we can go in October and set the record. Again, I can't say it enough, but thank you to Roland for the race suit. It's been unbelievably helpful in getting us to our goal. Yeah, thank you so much. All right, we're gonna end this one off here. As usual, thank you guys for the support. It's been crazy. But yeah, until next time, have a good one.